The fourth plosive sound is this, and it is described as the voiced alveolar plosive. That is, it is a counterpart of ts, and this is to be pronounced as d, or we say id, and it is realized in two terms. That is, the first with letter D and the second with letters D, D. So when you find letter D in words like dog, then it is to be realized. So in initial position you have dog, dirge, and dumb. Here, then in the middle position and in the medial position we have study. End position we have rude. These are letter D. Then letters DD we have daddy, we have paddy, birdie, middle, and address. So letters DD, whenever it is found or whenever they are found, they are to be realized as this sound. While letter D in the following words and words like them, they are to be realized. Now in the exceptions, whenever you find letter D in the following words and the words that looks like them, you don't realize. The first one is grandson. When the word grand is written alone or in isolation, the letter D is to be realized. That is, you pronounce it as grand. But whenever it has a suffix, then it is not, the letter D in grand is not to be realized. So we don't say grandson, rather we say grandson. We don't say grandfather, we say grandfather, grandpa, grandmother, grandma. We say granddaughter, not granddaughter. So these are the exceptions. Then same thing, when the word hand is written in isolation, hand, the letter D in hand is to be realized. But when it has a suffix or as a compound word, it is not to be realized. So we don't say handsome, rather we say handsome, we say handkerchief, we say hanky. We don't say handsome, handkerchief, and we don't say hand key. No, rather it is handsome, handkerchief, and hanky. So in these words and the words that looks like them, the letter D here are not to be realized. Okay, the next plosive sound is the one represented with letter K, but it is to be pronounced as k, and this has its description as the voiceless velar plosive. That is, the sound is to be produced at the velum and it is voiceless. So voiceless velar plosive, and it has this number of representations. It can be represented with letter K, letter CK, letter CH, letters CK, letter Q, letter X, and letter C. Any of these C's representations could be pronounced as where it's warranted actually. So this, for letter K, we have, it is pronounced as k in initial position such as kit. We have kite, we have kid, kettle, king, and at one end position we have leak. We have other words at one end position such as meek. Then letter CK can be pronounced in so many ways, but in the following words they should be realized as, for example, we have kime, we have courier, we have chemist, we have character, we have charisma, and we have Christ. So we have other words that they are to be realized as k. For words like Christian, charismatic, we have characterization, chemical, and then we have others. But for these words, they are to be realized as k. In other words, they are to be realized as other sounds. Now, whenever we find CK, they are to be realized as k. So we have sick, tick, kick, nick, and brick. Same thing, when we find letter Q, it is to be realized as k. So we have Q, quit, queen, quite, quiet, quack, and boutique. This is at word end position, boutique. Next, we have this letter X. Letter X has two sounds in it. That is, it has the K and the S sound. So that means when you find letter X in some words, you find it that it has K and S. So irrespective of whether it has two sounds, that means k is represented in it. So we have mix. So that is k before s. So mix. We have fix. Then the next one is six. Then we have sex. We have text. Then texture. So we have texture. So that is the x in it is the k sound. So we have texture. Then the last of this representation, the last of these representations is letter C. Letter C can be realized in other ways, but in this discourse, it is to be realized as k. So we have cry, then we have crack, we have comb, cone, we have come, we have count, cut, and crash. So what are the exceptions to this sound again? In the same manner or in the same fashion, the exceptions to this sound k, whenever we find letter K, is that the letter K is not to be pronounced or realized when it comes before letter N. And this is evident in English language that says whenever you find K before N, you just start from the N, you don't pronounce the K. That is, we have knife, night, no, not, and knee. Now you might ask that, why do we have the spelling letter K and then we don't have to realize them? Listen, in English language, this is only written for its aesthetic purpose. For example, what is the difference between this night and the night without letter K? So if you are to remove this night to mean the same thing as the night after day, then there would be no difference and this would make no intended meaning. So we just have to put the letter K for its lexical purpose, that is for its spelling purpose and for its meaning purpose, but it has no feature in phonetics. So they are all silent. So we have knife, night, no, not, and knee.